भी गवाही देंगे, आज कोई गवाही नहीं होनी है।
All right, the Gyanvapi case hearing begins in the Varanasi Court. All eyes now on the court as lawyers of both sides currently in court. 36 people to remain present in the court during the hearing. Maintainability Survey and Places of Worship Act will be widely discussed. First of all, hoping that the court will pronounce a verdict today itself, because the last two hearings were adjourned. The date has now come to today, where the focus, we believe, will remain on Maintainability Survey and the Worship Act. There will be extensive discussion on whether or not this plea itself from the Hindu side asking for worship to be allowed inside the premises, and of course the survey to be carried out, which has already been done, and the survey report is with the court now, whether this is legal and can be entertained under the court of law. Samar, of course, joining us. Samar, the court hearing has just begun. We hear. Give us a sense of who are the people who are inside. What's the sentiment on ground as you're right there by the Varanasi Court?
See, the hearing has begun. That's the biggest update coming in as the judge is looking after the file given by the advocates out here, and I'll just try to read out the names whosoever are inside. This includes the Muslim advocates and Hindu advocates. I have got the entire list of the advocates inside. That's Harishankar Jain, Pankaj Kumar Verma, Subhash Chaturvedi, Anupam Trivedi. It's a long list as I'm seeing from my mobile phone. So it's a big list with what I can see, what I can tell in a concrete way. The Muslim advocates, including Abhaynath Yadav, Akhlaq Ahmed, while the Hindu advocates, including Vishnu Jain, Harishankar Jain, Subhash Nandal, all these are the big faces in this entire Gyanvapi thing, and that's why they are inside. And because court restricted the much mob inside the court, inside the premises, and that's why earlier also, when you remember Advocate Commissioner Ajay Mishra was also sent back when he tried to enter inside the court, because it was a ruling in the district judge court that only limited people related to this particular Gyanvapi case will be allowed to enter inside, and that is why today also a list of 36 members have been given, which includes the petitioners, which includes Sohanlal Arya, which includes the Hindu side advocates, which also includes the Muslim side advocates. And I'm not convinced that this will take a lot of time, because what we can expect, there could be another date for the hearing. But yes, as it is about the maintainability, so yes, the hearing will start from the part of Muslim side, as district judge already told in the order given on May 24.
All right. Samar, give us an understanding into the kind of symbols, Hindu symbols that were found while the survey was conducted. We know that there was talk of shivling over a Wazu Khana, which now has been cordoned off. And then there was a lot of talk about another shivling, which is undisputed. There were several other symbols, we believe, like the lotus, the damru, the trishul, the pan leaves, all of that adorned the walls on the basement of the Gyanvapi mosque, which makes it a lot more contentious for the Hindu side at this point.
See, for that, we need to take our viewers to the back, because when we first spoke to the videographer, Vivaj Dubey, he told India Today TV a lot of things. He started with the swastik symbol, he saw lotus symbol, which is obviously of Lord Brahma, he saw the Shesh Nag of Lord Vishnu, and various other revelations were made by that particular videographer who surveyed, who actually videographed the entire survey. And then when we went on to the advocate commissioners, they clearly said in the report, because the report has already been submitted, and be it in the report of Ajay Mishra, advocate commissioner, or in the report of Special Advocate Commissioner Vishal Singh, it has been clearly mentioned that a lot of Hindu symbols have been found, be it a Trishul of Lord Shiva, swastik, or that Brahma symbol of lotus, that Sheshnag of Lord Vishnu, and various other flowers of ancient old flowers that seems to be of something like of Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva. So these symbols were found, while below the Shringar Gauri area where there is the broken wall, there were also symbols of Lord Ganesha were found. That was also clearly mentioned in the report, that a lot of symbols were found, though advocate commissioners kept tight-lipped about that shivling thing, because when we read that particular portion or interviewed them about that portion, they clearly said they have written that in line that claimed by Hindu side, the shivling fountain claimed by the Muslim side. But they also clearly said that when they touched that particular thing, it seemed to be of one single stone, but that upper portion was of something like white cement, but that was also years old. So a lot of symbols have been already found, as RP Singh clearly told us, videographers told us, advocate commissioners told us, and that report itself told us that a lot of temple symbols have been found. Though when we also spoke to the historians, they clearly said that Gyanvapi could never be a name of any mosque, because Gyanvapi itself is a Hindu name.
Right,
And that
right. You
implies
know,
an
Samar, stay with us. I'm going to cut across to Kumar Abhishek, who's currently speaking with a lawyer there. Hear it.
इसी बात को लेके 7/11 की जो एप्लीकेशन है उस पर सुनवाई का ऑनरेबल सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने डायरेक्शन दिया है, तो एक बड़ा मुद्दा है। एक
कितना टाइम आपको कितना लगता है?
अभी ये कुछ नहीं कहा जा सकता है। समय भाई अधिवक्ता है, अधिवक्ता को पक्ष रखना है तो किस प्रकार की दलील देता है।
आपको लगता है इस एक्ट में ऐसे प्रोविजन है जो कि मेंटेनेबिलिटी को
नहीं देखिए, एक पहले से ये मुकदमा 91 से जो चल रहा है, विजय शंकर रस्तोगी जी यहाँ वरिष्ठ अधिवक्ता हैं, वाद मित्र हैं, वो मुकदमा किए हुए, उसमें यहाँ सिविल जज थे RN मिश्रा जी।
अच्छा।
यह क्वेश्चन उसमें भी उठ चुका उस केस में, इससे
91
पुराना।
तो मैं बता दूं कि 91 के पहले भी ये कह रहे हैं कि ये मामला उठा हुआ है, तो ऐसी स्थिति में जज इन तमाम चीजों का अवलोकन करेंगे।
All right, let me cut across quickly to Nalini Sharma, who's tracking the court developments there. Nalini, it's going to be quite an elaborate judgment, if at all it has to come, because it can't be pronounced in simple words. There's got to be a lot of justification on whether this case is maintainable in the court of law, citing the Places of Worship Act 1991. And of course, then furthermore, the court will have to try and dissect that survey findings, which has now been submitted to court in 3 files, which is fully sealed and wrapped. It's with the judge, we understand, and we also hear that the judge has already run through the survey findings at this point. So what's expected today as sentiments are running high on both sides?
Well, Nabila, as the Supreme Court had ordered, and in accordance with the top court orders, the judge has rightly decided to first hear the oral argument.
All right, I'm going to try and patch Nalini back on that. But here we have Samar, who's been tracking those developments right there from Varanasi Court. Samar, would you be able to show us the kind of sentiment around you, the environment there? We know that there's much police security deployment there. The Wazukhana area where the claimed shivling was found has been fully sealed off. So there was a slight animosity at that point on the Hindu and the Muslim side, because Muslim claimed that they were not able to comfortably carry out their wuzu for prayers, and then eventually an alternative spot was given to them. So citing that sensitivity, we see heavy police deployment. Show us through what's around you.
See, you just mentioned about the wuzu khana. That is a very important feature of this entire story, because after the order of the district administration, the area was sealed, and after that the entire controversy began, because Hindu side kept on claiming that government side that area should be submitted to some other place. At Supreme Court also said that they will be allowed, they will be given some other wuzu khana before their prayers. But that has not been done yet, but that's in the process, as told by the district administration of Varanasi. But what is concrete, that Muslim side claim that it's a years old fountain. But when the Advocate Commissioner asked them to just show it, is it operational or not, they were tight-lipped. They had no idea what to answer, because as it is written in the report, what I'm saying, that the first Muslim side said that it is 12 years old, then they said it is 20 years old. So they were not concrete with their answers.
No, we understand that, and it's very hard to have clarity on how, first of all, a debate on how long that water fountain or the shivling was there itself is futile, because none of the mosque committee members are historians. They may have taken charge as a mosque committee possibly as recently as a few years ago. This mosque was built centuries ago. So that kind of knowledge for them to have, or even if they claim to have that kind of knowledge, must be damned. Now let me cut across to Nalini on that. Nalini, as you track the court developments, like I asked you, this can't be a simple one-line verdict or a judgment that will come from court. It's going to be an elaborate judgment, considering there are so many layers of legalities to this case. What's expected today as sentiments running high on both ends?
Well, Nabila, if I can simplify it a little for our viewers, whenever there is a court proceeding that's going on, it's usually divided into 2 large parts. First is the preliminary issue, which is an issue like maintainability that the judge is going to be hearing on first, as to whether or not this suit should even be entertained. And second is the trial or the arguments that happen on merits of the case. So right now, the judge is going to be listening on the preliminary aspects of the case, which includes the issue of maintainability of this suit. And you're right, this is by no means the end of the road for this issue, because the Supreme Court that had passed the orders on 20th of May had specifically said that even after the district judge decides on the issue of maintainability, the Supreme Court orders of the 20th of May that had asked for the shivling to be protected will still be in force for 8 weeks after that. Now, this 8 weeks time was given to either party that's not happy with the order on the maintainability to approach the Allahabad High Court in appeal. So, whichever way this issue of maintainability is decided, whether in the favor of the Muslim side or in the favor of the Hindu side, you can realistically expect the opposing party to knock the doors of the Allahabad High Court in an appeal against this limited order only on the issue of maintainability. All this is even before we get to the trial or arguments on merits of the case. Further on, if they're also not happy with whatever the Allahabad High Court decides on this issue, then they can come back to the Supreme Court again. That liberty has been granted to the parties. So this is by no means the end of the road on this matter, and the proceedings in this entire issue are expected to go on for a significant amount of time. What we're given to understand is today the arguments on maintainability before the district court, before the district judge will kick off, where the Muslim side is expected to oppose, stating that this entire suit is barred by virtue of the 1991 Act that asks for the religious character of these places, any religious place, to be kept intact as it was on 15th August 1947. On the other hand, what the Hindu side will be pushing for is to get some sort of interim order in their favor, where this survey report on which the judge has now called for the objections can be taken on by the court even further to see exactly what evidence really lies in this report and what was found during the entire survey. So that's what the Hindu side will be pushing for. But because the judge is first going to be hearing the arguments on maintainability, it's not likely that they will get an order in their favor like they are hoping. But like you said, this is of course not going to be an easy issue for the court to decide. We can't expect for an order to be passed on this entire matter as early as today. The arguments will likely go on for a few days at least. That's how it is usually in the normal course of proceedings. But in considering the fact that the media is not being allowed inside during these proceedings that are going on before the district court, it's a little difficult to say exactly how these arguments are proceeding, because we have to wait for the lawyers to come back after the hearing is over to give us an update on exactly what went on before the court and most importantly what the judge had to say about this entire matter.
You know, Nalini, it's also very interesting to observe that the Supreme Court, while it intervened, said that this could not be dealt with under the jurisdiction of the civil court. It has to be, taken up to a more learned panel, and therefore the district court judge was given the responsibility, huge responsibility now lies on his shoulders to pronounce this verdict. Any word, considering that there could be several layers of legalities to this, and it's not going to be an easy verdict or an order to give out by any court for that matter at this point. Do you think that this will be another round of adjournment, like we saw in the last two hearings? Barely when the hearing started, in first 5 minutes, the court decided the matter will be adjourned. Do you think that's going to be the case today as well?
Well, Nabila, we're not sure about as to whether or not it'll be adjourned, but one thing that we can be sure about is that this is going to be another long drawn legal battle. Something on the lines, I won't go ahead and say that it's going to be as significant as the Ayodhya issue was, because that of course was one of the first cases on this entire subject to come up before a court of law. But if not as important as Ayodhya, then this is going to be a close second. This is going to be an extremely long drawn out legal battle, because the final word on this entire issue is not going to be said by any other court except for the Supreme Court. There is no doubt in my mind about the fact that any party who's not happy with the court order in this issue is going to be exercising their legal remedies and approaching the higher court for relief. So the final word on all of this, on the issue of maintainability, on the merits, on the survey report, the final word will only be by the Supreme Court. But because there is a procedure established by law that needs to be followed, plus the Supreme Court wants to have the assistance of what has been decided by the District Court and the Allahabad High Court before the matter finally reaches them, because of course it allows the Supreme Court to carry on the proceedings in a much faster manner if preliminary issues are already decided by the lower courts. So they are looking to have the assistance of the opinion of the district judge along with the Allahabad High Court before the matter finally comes up before them. But this is something that the Supreme Court also knew, that eventually they are going to be the ones who have to decide on this issue, which is why the matter was not disposed of and it's still kept pending before the top court.
Right. Nalini, so a long-drawn battle is what you foresee of this case, and undoubtedly because there are similar requests made across the country now, even before the Gyanvapi verdict comes out. Here you have Hindu groups claiming that there's Hindu symbolism across several other structures of mosques and iconic places, spots built by the Mughals or the Sultanate era. At this point, all eyes on the Gyanvapi controversy, a case that's now been heard by the Varanasi Court. India Today brings you the fastest updates, but for now, it's a short commercial break.